Okay, so maybe you're like me and this whole Hasbro being ridiculous about the OGL thing has made you nervous. Maybe you've been watching like I have and you're trying to make sense of it all, and you're trying to make sense of what it means for your favorite version of tabletop role-playing games. If you're like me, you've seen the losses and the victories, if you even want to call them that. And just to be very clear and upfront about this video is not going to be about my opinions of those things. In fact, I have made it a very clear point that being negative on this channel is not something that I'm interested in doing. I like loving stuff. I don't really enjoy hating it. So I didn't know how to make a video, and this is my version of that video. And I'm really excited about it, and hopefully you are too. This is a long intro, but hopefully you stuck with me. Let's jump into the video. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Garmin. This is the Storycraft Society. This is Connor, who will probably be asleep for most of this video. And if you are anything like me, this whole OGL debacle has just been absolutely, unthinkably tiring. And it's a lot of ups and a lot of downs. And I will say it until I'm blue in the face. I like loving things. I don't enjoy hating things. So when trying to come up with how I wanted to make a video to approach this topic, I couldn't come up with a way to make it without being upset and being sad. Finally, with the release of the 5.1, which I think was last Friday when you all are seeing this video, I felt like this was my opportunity to be excited about something again, and I felt like this is where I could talk and I could speak in the voice that I want to speak in. I watched all of the videos of people saying, if you want to abandon 5th edition, go play this system, or go play this system, or here's how you can play a new system that's like 5th edition. And I'm going to be totally honest, I didn't like any of them. Maybe that's not totally fair. I bet you a bunch of it is because 5th edition is where I have all of my nostalgia in tabletop gaming, but I was scared to death that everybody in the hobby was going to run away from 5th edition, and we were going to splinter off into a bunch of little tiny cells of different role-playing systems that I didn't like as much as I like 5th. The 5.1 for me felt great, but then I also realized that a lot of people are really upset with Hasbro and what they've done with Wizards. That leads me to how then I could make this video where I don't want to talk about things that I hate. I want to talk about things that I loved. So my plan was to talk about my absolute favorite series of adventures that I think belong in a campaign together. They run really well into one another, that a publisher other than Wizards of the Coast has made. That way, if you are making some kind of a return to 5th edition, but you want to do it and support some other publisher that is making killer 5th edition content, this might be something that you're into. And I will tell you, I can't state this enough, this is my absolute favorite series of adventures that I have ever read or run, and I'm so excited to talk about it. So let's dive in. Also, there's a lot of books here. I'm not going to be going through all of them page by page, but I'm definitely going to be going through them and talking about the things that I love. So the first book that I'm going to talk about, and the first one in the series, is Tales of the Old Margrave. Now, this book is basically an anthology of shorter adventures that run from low levels to high levels. I'm not actually sure how high the high levels are in this because I have never run them. I've always run them into other adventures from this series. So let's see. So it looks like the highest level adventure is a 10th level adventure that you could absolutely pull out of this book. But for me, this book is perfect for super low level stuff, specifically levels 1 through 4. It's going to have a whole bunch of lore about the Old Margrave, which is this big forest in Kobold Press's setting, but I'll be honest, it fits really well into my Feywood in Tresina. It's basically the same type of place, although the Old Margrave in Kobold Press's setting of Midgard is more like a demigod or god that is just this ancient power primeval that lives in the forest. I run mine more like the Feywood is kind of tied into the Feywild. It's the place in Tresina where the barrier between the Feywild and the material planes are the thinnest, If you know anything about me, Fae are my favorite creatures. So anyway, the first few adventures in this are very traditional, low-level feeling adventures. They're going to be the types of things where you're dealing with going on fetch quests and you're just trying to figure out your bearings in the situation. A couple of specific adventures that are my favorite from this book. The first one, called Hollow. This is a low-level adventure where there's basically this like Terminator style wooden construct that comes to a village and is beheading villagers, and the players have to figure out where it's coming from and how to stop it. Eventually it ends up at an old tree ant that was cursed called the Singing Tree that sings from the decapitated heads of the people that the Hollow Man went and killed. If that sounds even slightly at all interesting to you, I suggest you pick this book up. For that alone, it's just got that perfect mixture of fairy and really, really disturbing and creepy that I feel makes a great Feywild-esque adventure. The next one is one called The Honey Queen, where the players actually have to go try and get some honey from this Fey queen called the Honey Queen, and she is obviously ruling over giant bees, and there's all these amazing side things that the players get into, like these flowers called Eiffeldonnen that are basically like hallucinogenics that will totally mess with the players' minds, and they see visions. And I'm gonna get rambly if I keep trudging on. There are so many good options in this book, and Tales of the Old Margrave is what I typically use for levels 1 through 4, even though it will take you all the way up to 10 if you string all the adventures together. Now, a very, very quick side note, they also have the Margreve's Player's Guide, which gives you a bunch of new races, a bunch of new subclasses for classes, a bunch of magic items and spells and lore that is specifically made and written up so that your players can read it. Now, I have talked about making primers for my players in the past. This is just like a ready-made primer that you can hand to your players and say, read as much of this as you want to get ready for the campaign, or you don't have to. I absolutely love the heck out of things like this, and I wish that other companies would do more of these companion pieces where there's the DM's book and then there is the player's guide that goes with it. Moving on to the next in the series, this one is called Wrath of the River King. So if you notice, it's definitely a lot thinner than Tales of the Old Margrave is, but do not let that fool you. This adventure for 5th through 7th level characters is absolutely a banger, and I will say this right here is my favorite adventure that I have ever run out of a book that I didn't custom write myself. This thing is just so jam-packed full of all of the things that I want out of an adventure, and that's going to start with the players trying to figure out what happened to the wife of the miller of a town called Riverbend, and that's going to eventually lead them into the Feywild. And then once they're in the Feywild, then they're going to be dealing with fairy trickery and the Scathshay nobles that are all trying to prove how they are much better than the mortal PCs. There is a huge segment called the Birch Queen's Fair in here. If you read Wild Beyond the Witchlight and you felt like it was too cartoony for your style of play, but you wanted some kind of fairy festival or carnival to be the centerpiece of one of your games, this is the book for you, because goodness gracious, the Birch Queen's Fair in this is so fantastically put together, all of the pieces you can use so evocatively with your players, and eventually you will be dealing with the River King and a noble that thinks that he has his birthright in the material plane. And again, this is another book that if you are kind of interested in anything that I just said, I recommend that you pick it up and read through it, because boy, it's my favorite adventure that I have ever run out of a book. Wrath of the River King. Now the next one is one that I will put a disclaimer on. I have not run this adventure. Courts of the Shadow Fae is an adventure for 7th through 11th level PCs. And the reason that I have never run this, I have read it over and over and over again, is because this is my dream adventure. I'm going to say that again because it's important to me. This is my dream adventure. I have never read an adventure out of a book that I have wanted to run so badly as this adventure right here. It is so exquisitely me in style that sorry, it almost puts me at a loss for words. And the thing is that I know that it is irrational. I am aware that it is totally irrational, but until I have the perfect group of players, I will not waste this adventure. I want to make sure that the group that gets to run through this particular cover is the group for it. So what makes me love this adventure so much, at least on paper? Well, it's going to start with little things, like the fact that the adventure is run in acts and scenes like a play. You want a guaranteed way to make me personally buy a book? Put your role-playing game adventure set up like it is written like a play. That is so awesome. It just gets me into the right mindset as a DM right away. There's another big blurb in this, and it's actually a really great one, and it's called, let's see here, Elitism as Villainy. And the whole basis of this is they think that they are so much better than the mortal-born PCs. That is their villainy. You can kill them. Sure, you can kill them, but that doesn't break their mindset and the mindset of all of the other fairies that are around. So it's an adventure that, yes, there is fighting, yes, there is combat, but also kind of in the way where if you think that Wild Beyond the Witchlight is too cartoony in its way that you can get through basically the whole adventure without fighting anything directly, this is an adventure that does that, but does it way less cartoony. You have to outsmart and outthink and out-roleplay the bad guys in this book. And to me, I just think that that is spectacular. There are feasts, there are dances, there are all kinds of courting. I mean, it's called Courts of the Shadow Fae. All of that, to me, is just the perfect adventure. And I don't want to spoil too much of what's cover to cover in this. But again, if this is something that interests you, I really recommend that you go check it out. I have one more book here, and this is a runner-up book. So this is called Shadows of the Dusk Queen, and Shadows is just a very short, I mean, you can see how tiny it is, adventure. It is not a one-shot. I'm not sure how long it would take me to run this, but my gut says that it would take me 4 or 5 sessions. If you have a very roleplay light group, you might be able to get through this in 2, maybe, or 3. But this is specifically an adventure for 5 8th level PCs. And the one thing that I'll say about this is that in reading it, I found that the best place for this is slotted somewhere into one of these books. This would be like a side thing that one of the players would want to go after. Another thing that you could do is basically rewrite this entire main story and use this as something that would be a quest that the warlock in your party would need to do for their patron. I think one of the most criminally underdone things in 5th edition is that when people play warlocks, they are not sent on errands and things by their patrons. That's like the whole shtick of the patron relationship with the PC. You could rewrite, no matter what your player's patron is, you could rewrite Shadows of the Dusk Queen so that instead of the Dusk Queen being the one who is the main antagonist in it, it could be the warlock player's patron. This is basically a big fetch quest, and the only reason that I mention it is because flavor-wise, as it is written, it fits into the same ideas as all these other books, and I'm not exactly sure where I would slot it in, but it could easily be slotted in to Tales of the Old Margrave or Courts of the Shadow Fae. But with that said, thank you so much for joining me on this cozy little book review on the couch. At the end of the day, I'm happy to be able to be excited about something 5th edition related again. Unquestionably excited. That's important. These are all really good adventures, and that's not the only thing that Kobold Press has. I mean, obviously I'm a huge, huge Kobold Press fanboy, and was a huge Kobold Press fanboy before all of this happened. This particular chain is one that is super near and dear to my heart. If anything that I said here interests you, I recommend you go check it out. But that's it for this week. If you enjoyed this video, definitely hit subscribe. If you like this content, definitely leave me a like down below. Leave me a comment of your favorite adventure that you've ever run. And if, like, your PCs have ever been through any of these adventures, I would love to hear about that too. Those stories are why we keep coming back to tabletop role-playing games. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do that. We have a lot of content coming out, and if you like this, you'll definitely like the other stuff. Share this video with a friend that you think would enjoy it. Show this to your DM if you would like to play through these adventures, or if you're a DM, show this video to your players to see if they would like to play through these adventures. But that's it for this week, so until next week, I'll be seeing you. Right, babe? I don't think you lifted your head once through literally this whole video. It's very rough being a little baby. Another fun side note, how many of you all have this kind of stuff of your dog up on the wall? The one on the right is him in his Ren Fair costume, and the one on the left is him with Santa a few years ago. Look at him. He's like the happiest little boy. Isn't he cute?